All right, today's lecture is going to focus on solutions, specifically concentrations of solutions. Now, in AP chemistry, the only unit of measurement for solutions is molarity. And whenever you see brackets around a chemical compound, that usually almost all the solutions we're going to talk about in this unit are going to be aqueous solutions. So the substance that is in brackets is going to be the concentration of the solute. Okay? How much solute is dissolved in an appreciable amount of water to make a solution. Again, whenever you have a solution, you have two parts. You have the solute, which is what is dissolved, and you've got the solvent, which is what is dissolving it. And for this class, the solvent is almost always going to be water. So when we're looking at concentrations of substances, we're looking at the solute. So if something has got brackets around a chemical compound, that's going to be the solute, and it also implies what is its concentration. You must always put capital M after it, because that is the units for concentration, which is called molarity. So if you have a brackets around HCl and it's 0.5 big M, what that really implies is that there is a half a mole of HCl per every 1 liter of solution. Okay, now as a particular representation, all right, so first thing here is we got a few problems on molarity. So if you want to pause the lecture right now with number 1, you can go ahead and do that. But we have a 12 molar concentrated HCl solution, and what we're going to do here is utilize the molarity equation up towards the top here and solve for each of these mathematical quick simple problems. So go ahead and do that now. Pause the lecture and see if you can do 1A and 1B. All right, we have the molarity equation, which is the molarity equals the moles of the solute, which is N. Little n is always moles. Moles of the solute divided by liters of solution. Well, if we're trying to figure out the number of moles, I'm solving for N. If I solve for N, I'm going to move the L over. So whenever we multiply the molarity by a solution by the volume of the sample in liters, that's going to give me the moles in that sample amount. So we have a 12 molar solution. Big key is this is 25 milliliters. You have to be able to convert that into liters. And there's 1,000 milliliters in a liter, so you'll divide it by 1,000. Taking 12 molar times 0.025 liters, we get 0.3 moles of HCl. So that'd be how many moles of HCl there would be in a 25 milliliter sample. So instead of doing last unit grams to moles to get the moles of the reactant, we're now going to take the molarity to moles to get the number of moles of reactant. But again, once we get into the moles, we can then do stoichiometry and the balanced equation to be able to figure out the moles of the unknown substance we're trying to figure out. All right, B, what volume of concentrated HCl must be taken to contain 1 mole? So now we're looking at volume. So if I rearrange this equation and solve it for L, we know moles equals molarity times volume. So the liters is going to be the moles divided by the molarity. Again, simple algebra that you guys should have really good strength of. So whenever you divide the moles by the molarity, that's going to give you the volume of it in liters. So the volume would be 0.0833 liters or 83.3 milliliters, depending upon what they would want. If they didn't specify, the liters answer would be perfectly fine. All right, when you have an ionic compound in water, one thing you got to remember is an ionic compound, when it goes into water, it dissociates, if you remember net ionic equations. So potassium sulfate, I know, is soluble in water because it contains potassium, which is a group 1. So in water, potassium sulfate will break apart into 2 potassium ions and a sulfate ion. So if the bottle reads 0.08 molar potassium sulfate, what would the concentration of the potassium ions be in the solution? Would it be 0.08? And the answer is no. For every mole of potassium sulfate that dissociates, we're going to get twice as many potassium ions because we're getting 2 of them for every particle. So the concentration for the potassium would be 0.08 times 2, or 0.16 molar. The concentration of the potassium ions would be double that of the potassium sulfate. Now, the sulfate concentration, the ions of the sulfate, would be the same because we only have one sulfate per every potassium sulfate. So that would be 0.808 molar as well. One thing I'd be careful, especially with the Pearson homework, is they might also ask for what is the total ion concentration, which would mean that when this substance breaks apart, it breaks apart into 2 potassium ions and a sulfate ion. Altogether, that's 3 ions, so it'd be 3 times the 0.08 molar. Or we could simply just take these 2 molarities and add them up, and we get 0.24 molar. So be careful. Is the question asking a specific ion or the total amount of ions in solution? All right, go ahead and try letter B now and see if you can figure out the concentration of the lanthanum ion, the bromide ion, and the total ion concentration. And I will tell you that lanthanum bromide, again, because we see it's a molarity, we know it is soluble in water, so this is aqueous. Go ahead and give it a try. Lanthanum bromide will break apart into 1 lanthanum ion, and because we know bromine as being a halogen has always a -1 charge on it, we know that since there's 3 of them, that must mean the lanthanum is a +3 ion. Okay, so the concentration of the lanthanum ion will be the same as the lanthanum bromide because we get 1 for every lanthanum bromide. So it's going to be the same molarity. The bromide concentration, however, will be different. It's going to produce 3 for every particle. So you'd have to take 0.4 times 3, and we get 1.2 molar. The total concentration of ions, all of the ions together, we'd just summate, add them up, we'd get 1.6 molar. So being able to calculate the concentration of a specific ion or total ion concentration is very vital and important to be able to do these problems. Now again, you might say again, when these things dissociate, why don't those positive and negative ions come back together? Chemistry concepts. All right, last thing is how we can calculate molarity from dry stock. So we're trying to make a solution. It says by dissolving 16.3 grams of ammonium sulfate to 500 milliliters of water. Okay, what is its molarity? Well, remember, molarity is equal to moles divided by liters. Well, if I've got a mass, what's the first thing I got to do? The ammonium sulfate must be the solute. So what I need to get molarity is not the mass, I need to get the moles. So step 1 is to convert the ammonium sulfate into moles. And there we need to know the molar mass of ammonium sulfate. So 14.01 times 2 plus 8 hydrogens plus a sulfur plus 6 oxygens. And we get 132.16 grams. So 16.3 divided by the molar mass will give me 0.123 moles of solute. If I divide that now by the liters of the solution, well, again, here's the common thing that they'll typically do to you in the national exam. They give you milliliters. You've got to make sure that you know that 500 milliliters divided by 1,000 is 0.5 or half of a liter. And as long as I don't round until the very end, I get 0.247. And again, we always have our answer have 3 significant figures in AP chemistry. So we have a 0.247 molar ammonium sulfate solution. So that's how we calculate molarity when we know the mass of the solute, and we need to convert that into its concentration. So here are some key concepts on concentration, just to kind of let you be aware of. I think most of this stuff should make fairly good sense to you. It's just a matter of doing enough practice problems to get good at it. So what I have for you for practice is 7 questions in Pearson on these conceptual concepts of solution concentration. Please do those. It's good practice. And that'll be it for this section. We have one more left to do, which is being able to do solution stoichiometry. For those of you that have been in class, you've had practice problems on those. Those of you that are virtual students will need to do the homework problems to get good practice on that and get prepared for both the quiz and then the exam next week. All right. Again, thanks for listening. A couple pictures here. So if you look at this beaker up here, if I were to take a sample of this material out. One thing you'll notice about both of these is that whenever we have the keyword solution, a solution is a mixture, specifically a homogeneous mixture. Okay? And as you can see with these particular representations, the amount of solute, which is the little circular sphere, that it's evenly distributed throughout the material. And that's because all homogeneous mixtures are uniform. And therefore, the concentration is not any more concentrated towards the top or middle or bottom. It's evenly distributed. So if I were to take a sample out of this left beaker here or here and analyze it, the concentration in both of these areas would be exactly the same because it's a universal substance. One other thing you'll see is that in this, if I were to take the same size circle of sample, you'll notice that there's a lot more particulates in the left beaker per sample amount than there is on the right. And we can immediately tell that this is a much more concentrated substance and this is a much more dilute solution. Okay? How can I make a more concentrated solution to a more dilute solution? We can use something called the dilution equation. In the dilution equation, it would be the molarity and volume of the concentrated. Let's say I take 10 mils of a 12 molar HCl solution, and I add enough water to it that the volume becomes 100 milliliters. Okay? So MCVC equals MDVD, where the C stands for the concentrated side, the D stands for the diluted side. So if I were to add 90 more mils of water to it and cause the total volume to get up to 100 milliliters, what would be the new molarity? Well, you can see that what I've done here is I've diluted it by a factor of 10. All I simply have to do is divide by 100, but that's what I'm going to get here. The milliliters will cancel, and I'll get my new molarity, which is 1.2 molar. So again, when you are looking at dilutions, it's simply using the diluted equation, but sometimes you can just simply look at it and say, well, if I've gone from 10 mils to 100 mils, I've diluted it by a factor of 10, the concentration is going to decrease by a factor of 10. But this is an equation that is very helpful whenever we are adding water to substances, mainly to cause a more concentrated material to become more dilute. And particulate-wise, as you can see here, there'll be less solutes per given amount of solution. All right. Well, when we have an ionic compound that dissolves in water, water, remember, is a bent molecule. And because it is bent, it's polar. The water has a negative end, which is by the oxygen, and positive ends by the hydrogens. So when we have a substance like, in this case, potassium chloride, when this guy dissociates into water, the reason why it does dissociate is because that positive ion is very strongly attracted to that negative oxygen on water, and the hydrogens are very strongly attracted to the chlorines. And what will happen, as you can see here, is the potassium ion will be surrounded by the water molecules in which the negative oxygen is attracted to the positive potassium. And it, in essence, surrounds the particle, and the more attraction the water has to those ions, the more soluble that material is. This process is called solvation. So that surrounding of the ions by water, by opposite charges, is solvation. And that's what prevents the negative ions and the positive ions from getting back together. You'll see here the chloride ion, that the hydrogen, which is the white part of water in this case, the white sphere, is more strong, is much closer to the chloride because the hydrogen is the positive part of water, and therefore it surrounds the ions, and that prevents the positive potassium and chloride ions from getting back together and reprecipitating out of the solution. So this is what water will do. It'll solvate or surround the particles to keep them suspended into solution. Okay? One other thing with solutions, particular representation, again, is this idea of weak versus strong. I know when I just graded a lot of your net ionic equations, I noticed some issue with that. Remember, a strong acid will completely separate into ions. Okay, we call that a strong acid. Not because of its concentration, but what it looks like is a particulate in solution. A weak acid like HF only weakly separates Okay, only a small amount of it separates. Most of it stays together as the HF molecule. So in solution form, when we're doing net ionic equations, HF will stay together. We will not break it apart because weak acids do not dissociate very much, if at all. Strong acids completely dissociate. So when you have HCl in a net ionic equation, you must write it as the ion form where it is fully separated because you will not see it as HCl particles together. So if you look at these two pictures right here, which one is HCl, which one is HF? Hopefully you identified that this right here was HCl because the smaller particles is the hydrogen ion and the chloride is a bigger ion, it's a bigger atom, and you can see here that all of the acid has already been dissociated apart into its ions. None of the acid will remain together as a molecule. The second picture is an example of HF because only a small amount of it is dissociated. You'll notice that there's one right here, and there's one right there, and there's one right there. So we see 3 hydrogen ions that are separated, and we see 1, 2, and 3 blue spheres as the fluorines separated. So here we can see that a small amount of the HF has dissociated into the ions, but most of them still are together. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of them have stayed together as HF, and 3 of them has separated into the individual particles. So if I look at that, 3 particles have separated out of originally 13 particles. Okay? If I take 3 divided by 13 times 100, this would tell me that this substance, about 23% of it had dissociated. Okay? Less than a quarter of the particles had separated into the H plus and F minus. Okay? So these are different particular representations just to be aware of on the